Shikoyach Rav Gans, Shus, Marosh Yeshiva, Mashpim. Baruch Shechionu v'kimonu v'giyonu lizman hazeh. To be able to be Messiah, the Machzor HaShloishim, the 30th Machzor of Limud Harambam, is a very big simcha. On a personal note, I want to take this opportunity before we're Messiah the Rambam officially to be Makir Tova for my own personal Limud Harambam. Not all of you know my age, but based on my years, I was a little bit more than a year under Bar Mitzvah when the Rebbe came out in Tovshim Mem Daled with the Takana of Limud Harambam. Bepashtus, most children my age, Lav Davke learned Rambam, and if they did, Bepashtus it was Sefer HaMitzvahs. But Baruch Hashem, Zochisi, that I began learning Rambam, 3 Prakim Rambam, from the beginning of the Takana. And I want to take this opportunity to be Makir Tova to my father Zol Zayin Gesund, who, now that I'm older, I understand the real Mesiris Nefesh that was entailed and involved. He took a little boy, and mit Apashtus, there was no Chochmes. If the Rebbe came out with a Takana of Limud Harambam, Muzmen lernen Rambam. In the beginning, it wasn't really clear. I don't know if anyone remembers, if the Seder of Limud Yom Perek Echad, in the beginning, in the Hakdome, will be the same as Gimel Prakim. We understood that Bepashtus it'll be the same. So the first day of the Rambam, we sat down and we learned the Hakdome Rambam. Then the next day we learned the Minyan HaMitzvahs and V'chein Holo. By the time we realized that the Limud of Perek Echad Layoim was a different Seder, beginning from the Hakdome, we were stuck. And Me'oisei Hayoim V'elech Midei Yoim Be'yoimoi. My father would take me and my brother every single day and learn with us Gimel Prakim Rambam. Sometimes 7 o'clock in the morning, at night, during the day, whenever there was an extra moment, we would sit and learn Rambam. And it's chusay that I had this chus, even at my age, to be able to say, I probably didn't learn every day, I missed from time to time, that I was able to learn already 30 machzorim of Rambam. And I want to just be Makir Tova and say Yashikoyach. As a bocher in yeshiva in Olateira, I want to just share with you certain hergeshim and feelings that as a bocher gave us extra chayis in Limud Harambam. This is famous. But whenever the Rebbe used to travel, sometimes you could see it on the videos, the Rebbe always or usually was standing or sitting with a Rambam in the car and learning Rambam. And to us Bochrim, it gave us a meirendike chayis to continue learning Rambam. But just to share with you one small episode or story that I myself witnessed. It was one Sukkis, Cholamayit Sukkis in the morning. The Seder was, on Yontif it was 8 o'clock, and Cholamayit it was 9 o'clock. The Rebbe would come out to the Sukkah to bench Lulav and Esrik. And after the Rebbe bench Lulav and Esrik, the Rebbe would open the door, and the Meir Harlik would go in, and he would take the Lulav and Esrik, and he would go stand for the people to bench the Rebbe's Esrik. What most people didn't know was that a few minutes after, about 10 minutes later, he would leave the Lulav and Esrik with someone else, and he would go into the Rebbe's Sukkah to be Mesader Mezoinus for the Rebbe. He would Mesader some Mezoinus, he would go in, and then he would go out. That was his Seder and his Chus. So I had a shtick. I used to stand behind the door in 770, the front door, to be able to peek into the sukkah to see the Rebbe when the Meir Harlik would go in. The maskirim used to sometimes, "Geh weg von da, wo stehst du da?" But I used to try to make sure to stand. It's one particular Cholamayit Sukkah's morning. It was raining outside. And I remember he opened the sukkah door and I saw a tziyur that stays with me ad hayom hazeh. And whenever I learn Rambam, it gives me a chayis and a cheshek. The Rebbe was standing in the sukkah with his hat and jacket. The rain was coming down. He was standing because it was raining, I imagine. He was standing with his Rambam with both hands like this, and he was standing and shuckling, as if like this, shuckling and learning the Rambam. And this tziyur, I'm just giving you a geshem al tzabocher, this tziyur gave me azah extra chayis and an extra koch in limud Rambam. And versteht sich, like Rabbi Gans mentioned, Rabbi Yoel mentioned, dem ozloi evoish, concerning learning kol ha-Torah kula, also, and maybe even more so, applies to limud Rambam. Ozloi evoish, says abusha, if a bocher or anyone, any chassid doesn't learn epis achelik in the limud Rambam. Towards the end of Sefer Hayad, the Rambam says in Halacha Daled, "Lenisavu hachachomim v'neviim yemei Mashiach, lo kidei sheyishletu al kol ha'olam." The chachomim and the neviim, they didn't desire Mashiach to rule over the world. V'lo kidei sheyirdu b'goyim, not to control the goyim. V'lo kidei sheyinasu oisam ma'amim, not that the goyim should lift the Yidden up. V'lo kidei lechel v'lishtes v'nismayach, not even to eat and drink and be happy. Elo kidei sheyiu pnuyim b'Torah v'chachmasa, they should be able to be ponui to learn Torah and Chachma. If we want an elom chatire b'chayecha, or me'ein elam haba of pnuyim b'Torah v'chachmasa, I think that really applies to yeshiva bachrim, u'befrat to bachrim etem Hatmimim. They're ponui, learning to learn Torah and Torah b'chachmasa. No daiges, no daiges aparnosa, no daiges of achilu shtia and simcha. Mamish, there's only time to sit and learn Torah. Mamish me'ein elam haba. V'lo yeh lehem neges mevatel, there should be no one being mevatel. K'dei sheyisku lechaye ha'olam haba, k'bei shebiyanu b'ilchus tshuva, in order to be zeichet lechaye ha'olam haba. The diuk what the Rambam writes, k'dei sheyisku lechaye ha'olam haba, is well known. That the Rambam's shita is that the tachlis aschar is not tchias ha-mesim or neshamas begufim, but rather afterwards there will be a zman of oilam haba of neshamas beloi gufim. And that's bepashtos what the Rambam means here, kedei sheyizke l'chaya ha'olam haba. Chassidus brings the Ramban, who argues with the Rambam, and Chassidus paskins with the Ramban. Just to note, everything is bediuk. If you'll take a look in the Nusach HaTfilah of the Rambam, on Uvolet Tzion, where the Rambam says there, "V'nizke v'nichye v'nire v'nire shteva l'shnei yemei Mashiach." Our nusach is ulechaye ha'olam haba. The Rambam's nusach is b'diuk l'shitosei l'shnei yemei Mashiach k'dei shenizke lechaye ha'olam haba. That in order that we should be zeicha afterwards to chaye ha'olam haba l'shitosei, that the tachlis aschar is not yemei Mashiach, but rather chaye ha'olam haba. And in the last halacha, the Rambam writes, "Ube'isei hazman le'yeh shom le'rov v'lei milchama." There will not be any hunger and no milchama. V'lei kina v'tacharus, there will be no jealousy nor competition. And as the Rebbe explained once in a sikha, that bepashtus kina v'tacharus refers to gashmi is dike kina and gashmi is dike tacharus. However, kina v'tacharus in Torah, kina soifrim tar bechokma. Adarabe. L'chiyoyre, there will be the ultimate of kina in kedusha and Torah and chokma. Nevertheless, the Rebbe says, the pshat in the Rambam is there will be no kina v'tachrus afilu in Torah. The Rebbe brings a Gemara that says the Talmidei Chachomim will be man'imim zeh zeh. Adarabe. They will assist each other in Torah and in chokma. Mit einer zum zweiten verginnen mit dem ganzen Herzen in kedusha Torah. There will be no kina v'tachlis. Sha'ateva tiyeh mushpa'as harbe, v'chol ha'madanim mitzuyim ki'ofar, because the teva, good, will be much, and all the madanim will be mitzuyim ki'ofar. And the Rebbe always mentioned, kimat every time, the pshat, madanim mitzuyim ki'ofar, doesn't only mean that there will be a lot, and it will be a lot like ki'ofar, like the dust of the earth, but rather they will be nechshav ki'ofar. We won't even be interested in the madanim. And the Isaac of the whole world will be only Lodasis Hashem. Therefore, there will be Yidden will be Chachamim G'deilim, and they will know dvarim stumim, hastumim, hidden things. V'yasigu das boiram kifi koyach ha'adam. They will have a hasoga in the Eibishten's das of what's able for a person to be able to be masik. Shenema, like it says, ki molo ha'rezdeyas Hashem kamayim layom mechasim. Nishlamu hilchus melachim v'achibra kuloi. Baruch she'omar v'hoya olam b'frotay u'b'chlolay. I believe the Rebbe finished with that lashon in Tavshin Memtes when the Rebbe was Messiah the Rambam in that Sikha in the Rebbe's house. I think I was there, I'm not sure. The Rebbe once in a Sikha, many Sikhs discussed the last halacha of the Rambam. Just to repeat one nekuda, one word that the Rebbe said on this last halacha in the Rambam. Rebbe asked a kasha. First of all, the Shaila the Rebbe asked in many different Sikhs, many times, in Tavshin Mem Tes, a few times, it's mitzayin to it. Why does the Rambam mitzayim the Sefer with Kamayim Layom Mechasim when the Nilchas Tshuva, he also brings the same teichen, and he finishes off with Kimol Oras Deis Hashem. In addition, the Rambam writes, Lefichoch yu Yisrael Chachomim G'dolim v'yoidim dvorim hastumim v'yasigu das boiram kifi koyach ha'adam. V'yedu dvorim hastumim v'pashtus. What does dvorim hastumim mean? Hidden things. Yasigu das boiram is Yediyas Hashem. Dvorim hastumim b'pashtus, if you read the words taken out of context, doesn't necessarily refer to Hasaga and Yediyas Hashem. What is Dvarim Stumim? We can imagine. There are many hidden things in the world that we don't know. Many things that the scientists are still breaking their head to try to figure out. Many chochmes that not everyone knows. Even these Dvarim Stumim, the Yidden will be Chachomim G'dolim and they'll know these Dvarim Stumim. In addition to knowing Dvarim Stumim, will also have Yasik Das Boidam will know Asaga and Yediyah Salakus Kifikaya Chodam. However, Bepashtus, if the Rambam says Lo Yeh Eiser Kolo Olam Elo Lo Das Hashem Bilvat, if the Yidden will only be involved in Yediyah Hashem, why would it be necessary for the Yidden to know Dvarim Hastumim? Why do we have to know stam hidden things that are l'chayre not connected directly with Yediyas Hashem? It's very nice to know Dvarim Stumim. It's nice to know all the hidden secrets of the world. It would be nice to know them now. But b'shas b'oisei hazman, when Mashiach comes, l'maynav kimine for asogas alakus. If lo ye'isa kol oilam el l'dases Hashem bilvat. Muzman Zogan, says the Rebbe, that to know Dvarim Hastumim, the hidden secrets of the world, is also connected to Yediyas Hashem. Is also connected to Asagas Hashem. L'chayre, what's the shaykhs? And the beard is based on the Haschol in the beginning of the Rambam, in Hilchis Yesoidei HaTorah. The Rambam is Meirich Barichis in the first 4 Parakim, Maise Bereshis, Maise Merkava first, and then Maise Bereshis. By the way, Al Samaymer HaMuzgir, Shaloi Keto So'ilam, that the first 4 Parakim are not the real Kaviyachal halachis of the Rambam. The real halachis of the Rambam Kaviyachal begin in Perek Hey, where the Rambam begins the mitzvahs and the halachis, in addition to just the first mitzvah of Anoichi and La'yilacha. Chas v'sholem. The first Parakim are part of Hilchis Yesoidei HaTorah. Yesoid HaYesoides V'amud HaChochmes. All the Parakim in the Rambam about Maise Merkava, Maise Bereshis are all a chelik of the Yesoides of Torah Mamish. The Chiyore, the Rambam is doch a Sefer Halachas. Why is it so important for the Rambam to be Meirich in Maise Bereshis in a Sefer Halacha? Now it's true that the Rambam says, hey, there's a mitzvah of Avos Hashem, there's a mitzvah of Yiras Hashem. And the Rambam explains to us that through Yediyah and Maise Merkava and Maise Bereshis, that brings us to Avos Hashem and Yiras Hashem. And it's can God sein that it's a chelik of the hisbonenus of Avas Hashem, Yiras Hashem. Nevertheless, the Rambam doesn't bechlal give us the details of a hisbonenus. He should tell us, you have to go ahead, learn Maaseh Bereishis, learn Maaseh Merkava, find yourself svarim, find yourself teachers. That is a chiyuv in order to come to Avas Hashem, Yiras Hashem. Why does the Rambam mairich so much in telling us these pratim of how to come to Avas Hashem and Yiras Hashem? And the Rebbe is mechadish here that the idea of Maaseh Bereishis and Maaseh Merkava is not just a hisbonenus to bring us to Avas Hashem and Yiras Hashem, but it's a chelik of mitzvahs Yediyas Hashem. Part of the Yodaita and Das Alekei Avicha, part of the Yediyah of the Hashem, of the Metzias of the Eibishter and the Ashpoas of the Eibishter, v'chulu, is chelik of them is Maaseh Bereishis and Maaseh Merkava. Because through Maaseh Bereishis, through knowing the secrets of the Brias Ha'olam, that itself is rayis on the Eibishter, that helps us in Yediyas Hashem. As much as Maaseh Merkava, about the Malachim and Ruchni's Dikinyonim help us in Yediyas Hashem, Maaseh Bereishis also is a chelik of Yediyas Hashem. And the Rambam himself is koilel all the 4 prakim in one inyan in the end of the Perek Dalet, which tells us that all 4 prakim are one inyan in addition to Ava and Yireh, also part of Yediyas Hashem. Which the Rebbe always told us and writes in the Brief and in the Siches, if you'll see, that all the kvayochel hidden in yonim of the Brias Ha'olam, whether it's certain scientific discoveries, etc., the Rebbe always used them not only as a hero in Avodas Hashem, but he also used them as a raya on Metzias Hashem, kipshutoi, that they themselves prove the existence of the Eibishter. And that's what the Rambam is telling us. It's also meduyik when the Rambam tells us that what I'm explaining here is only a drop of the arichas that could be learned in Maaseh Merkava and Maaseh Bereishis. So the Rebbe explains the chiluk in the Lashonis in different places. One time the Rebbe said the chiluk is like this. Concerning Maaseh Bereishis, the Rambam writes, it's only kimar midli. It's like a drop in the bucket. Maaseh Merkava, the Rambam uses it's kitipa min hayam. What's the chiluk? Chiluk is because as much as Maaseh Bereishis, we can understand the Eibishter, but that Havana and Yesoga and Yediyah is mugbul. Because we're having a hisbonenus in something that's a gashmi, a chibur of a goylem betzura, as the Rambam calls it. Masha'enken, when we're dealing with Maaseh Merkava is a soga in a lekus. A lekus is bli gvul. To have an emesa soga in bli gvul is doch impossible. But Mela, the Rambam uses the lashon kimar midli because by Maaseh Bereishis, a dli is a bucket. It doesn't represent bli gvul. So the inyonim that I'm teaching you, says the Rambam, is takia a drop, but it's a drop in a dli, a drop in the bucket. Mashenke Maaseh Merkava, it's takia a tipa. I'm teaching you only a tipa, one drop, but it's a tipa from the yam. What's yam? Famous din in Mesichta Yevamis, and in Hilchis, in Simen Yud Zayin, in Even Ezer, in Hilchis Ishis, concerning Agunis, that if Rachmana Litzlan, a person was nevad in Mayim she'ein lohem soif, the yam represents Mayim she'ein lohem soif. So then the halach is different. If a person was Rachmana Litzlan nevad, he was lost in Mayim she'yesh lohem soif, which is also known as a breicha. The chiluk is in halacha that if a person was never in a breicha, Mayim sheyesh lohem soif, then you can assume that if you waited this man at sheteitze nafshoi, that Rachmana Litzlan is not here anymore. Mashenkin in Mayim she'ein lohem soif, heyois it's ein lohem soif, it's kaviyachol bli gvul, It's possible that the person was oile in a different area. Nevertheless, the halach is under certain circumstances in Nisas Loi Teitzei. That says the yam represents bli gvul, even though bepoil mamish yecholim l'shayir kamotip and yesh bayam. Aber sof kol sof, Torah calls it ma'im she'ein lohem soif. That says tipa min hayam. The Rambam is telling you that the hasoge of tipa min hayam is a yam of bli gvul of ma'im she'ein lohem soif. In a different place, the Rebbe also asks a shaila. Mar also represents connected. See, he feels down. For those who are learning it today. So l'chiyoyre, darf sei pug verkehrt. By adli, where it's gvul, it should have said the lashon tipa min adli, because there's an erech, there's a shaykhis between the tipa and the adli. Mashenke, by the yam, there should be l'chiyoyre merirus. Why should there be merirus by the yam? Could you imagine you're one tipa of the ganze yam? Wer bist du? You're nothing. So adirabe, why is the lashon there tipa? Rebbe's masbir that zu sein a tipe from bli gvul, to be a chelek of bli gvul, in the tipe drikt zechois is also expressed the bli gvul. There's a shaykhis and an erech between ein tipe with the yam with the bli gvul more than there is from the mar to the dli. Because ein tipe from bli gvul drikt sich in the tipe oicheto is bli gvul. Rebbe says, if Maisa Merkava and Maisa Breishis are both connected to Yediyah Salikus, to Asoga Salikus, now the Siyem Harambam notes Tchiloson Besoifon Vesoifon Betchiloson makes a lot of sense. That when the Rambam says V'yodim Dvorim Hastumim, what the Rambam is referring to is Take Maisa Breishis. The Rambam is referring to Taka knowing the secrets of the world. That's what Dvorim Astumim is. V'yoidim Dvorim Astumim. We can actually have a Hasogi in Dvorim Astumim. Because it's a Hasogi in Gashmir. Those Yediyas are Negeya to Lodas es Hashem Bilvad. Because the Yediyah in Maisa Breishis is a chelik of Emunas Selakus and Yediyah Selakus. And that's what we're going to be learning be'oisei hazman. V'yasigu das boirom. Yasigu das boirom. That represents already Maisa Merkava. That's already das boire. Das of the Eibishter. Das of the boire oilam, which is Maisa Merkava. Since that's a Yedi and bli gvul, so that's why the Rambam is Moisef over here, kifikoyach adam. Because the Yediyah, as it says in Chassidus and in Kabbalah, is only Yediyas HaShlila. It'll be the Tachlis HaYediyas HaShlila, because we're going to be Chachamim G'doilim Unevainim, but it's still only Kifikayach Adam. But now that we know that Yasigu Das Beiram refers to the Yediyah of Belikvul, refers to Maisa Merkava, that's why the Rambam is Moisef here in Ochas Melachim, Kamayim Layom Mechasim. Because Kamayim Layom Mechasim represents Blikvul. Like the Yam, the Mayim is Mechasa, the Yam, and a Oifen from Blikvul because it's Kitipa Min Hayam. So the Rambam is finishing and telling us that the Iker Yediyah V'Asoge B'Zman HaMashiach B'Isei Azman will be a Yediyah in Blikvul. I want to conclude that this word, that tipa min hayam, even though it's one drop from the ganze yam, shaloi be'erech the tipa. Nevertheless, it's meloshin tipa. Nevertheless, in them tipa is expressed the fact that it's blikvul, it's a chelik of the blikvul. L'chaira should also help us in our iskashrus, and particularly in Limud Rambam. Because sometimes we feel that Rebbe said to learn Rambam. There are hopefully hundreds of thousands and tens of thousands of Yidden who are learning Rambam. Does it really matter? Does my Rambam really matter today? And if I won't learn Rambam today, doch nicht gefährlich, ich bin Zachakel Atipo min Hayam. That's all I am. I'm one person. Is the teretz is, if you're a Tipo min Hayam, is the Yam drikt sich aus in the Tipo. The Tipo expresses the ganze Yam. The bleak gvul of everyone learning Rambam is expressed in the Tipo in every single individual person. Benoisef, mi ani, the Rebbe Taki said to learn Rambam. The Rebbe, Yudea Kolotera Kula, the Rebbe is doch bleak gvul. Wer bin ich zu lernen Rambam? Teich the Rebbe ki Tipo min Hayam. The bleak gvul from the Misaken Atakone, the Yam, drikt sich ois oichet in dem Tipo. In the drop, we're talking a drop, nothing more. Aber der Tipo drikt ois dem bleak gvul and gives us the ultimate iskashus zum Rebbe. And we hear also that bischus from Messiah, the chelik, the Siyem Machzer HaShloishim, the Limud Rambam, it should give us a chayis and a chizuk to be able, for those who didn't start for whatever reason to start, and for those who are learning to versteht sich continue, b'yeser says, u'b'yeser oz, until it will be taki u'molo oretz deis Hashem kamayim layom chasem.